Hello folks, welcome back, and as you can see today is a sunny day. I apologize for the exposure, it might keep changing. I know, welcome to the world of lighting when it's there and it's not anymore. Let's not worry about the lighting, let's worry about this device, the PSP. Why do I have one? Why have I been collecting games for it? Why have I changed the SD card? And do I recommend you get a PSP for yourself? Oh, so where do I begin with the PlayStation Portable? There's so much I can talk about. Let's make it simple. So, why do I like the PSP? Well, back in the day, I used to love all the games that Sony released for it. Original games, PS2 ports, PS1 ports, and even ports from other systems like Neo Geo, Mega Drive, and even PC Engine. They were all on this in the form of collections or the digital store, which you obviously can't use anymore on the PSP. The PSP essentially to me was the mobile phone of its day. It could do anything. You could go on the internet, you could use Wi-Fi, you could buy things, you could store media and play MP3, MP4 play videos and music on it. It had support for WAV. Honestly, and of course it's got USB. Honestly, the PSP is just incredible when you think about what a smartphone can do, and then you apply that to the PSP of 2005. Now this 2000 model has one additional feature. See this down here? That is a connector where you can plug in analog cables, so component in my case, and you can put your PSP onto a television, which is just insane. I've made plenty of videos about this so you can see what that looks like. For me, to discover that was just insane, and I find that when you play PlayStation games, so PS1 games on it, it works exceptionally well, and it actually looks fairly close to original hardware. A little bit blurrier, and the sound is slightly muffled, but it's close enough to where it's a viable alternative to using real hardware. Obviously, when it comes to PSP native games, unfortunately they play in a small window. That's not so good. But using the OSSC device, which I have, I can give it a line 2x upscale, and although you still use detail when you blow it up, it still looks relatively good. Although at this point, I probably would use the PPSSPP emulator for PSP, because now it's so well optimized and it will play in full screen. So I think that's the better way to play games like that on a display. But to have that feature on PSP is a game changer. You know, DS didn't have this. Most consoles didn't have this for ages. So honestly, the fact that Sony put this into the PSP is just mind-boggling. Now outside of that, the PSP was great at two distinct things: PSP games, emulation, and it did both amazingly well. Yes, PSP games were hit and miss. Some worked very well, some did not. Some didn't perform that great, some did. It just depended on the developer and what the state of the port was in. But there's no denying that the level of power that this device offered developers was just, I bet back in the day they were just blown away by what the PSP could do. It could keep pace with a PS2, so that meant that games that were being ported to the PS2 could also come over to PSP as well. And there are several games that came over from PS2 to PSP, or went from PSP to PlayStation 2, and in turn that actually kept the PlayStation 2 lifespan going even longer, because now there was another platform for it to go to. So it worked out pretty nicely, I think. And PS1 on this, I mean, before you had to buy the games, but now, thanks to modern technology, if you get this memory stick duo opened up like that, and I open up this, you can see we have an adapter now. So you can go from using the memory stick duo, if I can get that in focus for you, which is quite tough. Come on, you can focus. Essentially what this is, it's an adapter, so it adapts the memory stick duo into an SD card. So if I put it here, this might be better. Yeah, so obviously now I'm using a regular SD card, and I'm getting a lot more storage in return. In this card's case, it's 64 gigabytes, which dwarfs what you used to get for PSP. I can actually remember the flash storage being, I think, 1 gigabyte when at stock, and to get more from the official way was extremely expensive. Luckily, that solution I just showed you is so much cheaper. I bought that little adapter for £6 off eBay, and of course the SD card in question, which is faster than the memory stick duo speeds anyway, cost me only £16. So you can imagine that the cost savings are ginormous. The community for the PSP is what makes it possible. Now, you can either find the games that Sony did release officially on other sites nowadays, or you can go to community sites where they make the what's what I'm looking for, the e-boot for you, so you can play a game that Sony didn't officially release on PSP as an e-boot from other people. That will work, and it will work perfectly on this device. The best part is, because everyone knows how popular the PSP is now, people are still updating those sites, those e-boots, so ones that either didn't work or didn't work all that well are now working better. So it's fantastic to see that the PSP is still getting great support, and of course the homebrew scene on PSP is still fantastic. From getting different emulators to work on here, to playing original games or PC ports or DOS ports, the PSP has everything. Now, not every game works well on PSP, but a lot of them work very well indeed, and it's just another thing you can do with your device. This device has still got a lot of life behind it more than 20 years later. How many devices can you say have that ability to last well past the manufacturer's lifespan? Don't forget, this thing finished back in 2014. That's 10 years ago now. 10 years ago, I was 21. I'm 31 this year. And this thing is still supported. Not officially, by the retro community. And that's why the retro community is one of the most powerful things we have today. They can make things last longer than you ever thought possible. Don't forget, even new games are coming out for Mega Drive, Genesis, SNES, PC Engine. It's just unbelievable. I will say one thing though about the PSP. If you are looking to get one today, please be on the lookout for ones that have been refurbished, ones that may have bad batteries, and ones that have obviously got bad screens. This is a very pristine example that I bought for £100, but I don't expect anyone to buy a PSP for that much money. I will say as well, if you're going to buy a PSP, try and get the 2000 model like this one here, or the 3000 model, or the Go, because those not only have better battery life than the original piano black version, not only can you connect to a television, but also if you have a bigger battery, which they did exist officially, you can get even more battery out of your PSP. So this one can do between 3 and 6 hours. If you get a normal PSP 1000 battery and you get the plastic piece that stretches out here like a little grip, you can get more battery. And then if you get the big battery pack, which was 2200 milliamps, and this has only got 1200 milliamps, you could get easily 5 to 9 hours of battery life from this. So please be on the lookout for all those little things when you try and buy a PSP today. Also, I must say, this Analog Nub, it has to be the most hateful controller input I've ever had in my life. When I first had the PSP back in 2006, I hated it. Today, I really hate it. And I must say, Sony trying to put on this little nub as an analog stick was a huge mistake. They should have just taken it off. That being said, it does have one good purpose. When you play a PlayStation game or a emulator, you can use the functions like this to make it do other things. So for example, when I'm playing Driver, I've only got 2 shoulder buttons here, but then I can press this button like that and the camera will go to the back of my car so I can see behind me. And there are other little functions like that you can remap to this little nub, but as an analog nub, it's terrible and I hate it. Don't forget as well, you can also change the PSP screen. Now this LCD screen, as I'll show you now, is actually in very good condition, but if it wasn't, you can not only replace it with another LCD, but you can use IPS, and maybe one day you can use OLED, who knows, but you can replace this LCD panel with an IPS. Now as you can see, the screen itself looks fantastic already, so I don't need to replace it at the moment. Still though, these are all the little mods and tricks and tips you can do with the PSP, and there's just something about the charm of the PlayStation Portable. It's just so thought out, easy to use, and ahead of its time, and I love that about the PlayStation Portable. And it's cheap! It's cheap! You can buy one of these for £40 if you know what you're looking for. It just... damn. Who would have thought that the PSP would come so good 10 years after it was discontinued? I know the DS is well loved by people and it's the better selling device, but you can't do half the things you can do on a DS that you can do with the PSP. I love this thing so much. I really do. It is just a wonderful device, and if you can get your hands on one for a good price and the memory stick duo adapter, it is truly worth doing. Yes, SSPP is out there and emulation has come a long way, and yes, in most cases it might be the preferred option because it can speed up PSP games that were slow and you get full screen and all other stuff, but still, there is something about the PSP that just works beautifully for me. I mean, I even prefer it over the Vita, and that was a great, unfortunate system that Sony made as the sequel that is still recommended as well. Anyway, enough waffling. What do you guys think of the PlayStation Portable? Have you tried it? Have you got back into it recently? Have you modded your one? And trust me, it's easy to do. Let me know in the comments, and well, I will see you in my next video.